I just saw Kellie put in her
Yep.
thing in the chat. I can't, oh, there's the chat.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned, because I think I just did it. Make sure you set your chat to everyone.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to throw out the question that I want to know. So I have a couple of questions that you can put into the chat while we're all getting set up. Los Angeles, actually, I'm going to be in San Diego. I fly in on Sunday. I know that's not really Los Angeles, but close enough, right? So I guess what I want to know is, instead of asking where everybody's from, we did that in the first couple of sessions, is anybody going to some live events that are coming up? Because it's going to be fun. We've got a bunch of events started live, and I will be at my first live event. So first I started off with, where's everybody going? And now I'm going to like make total about Kellie and tell you where I'm going. So I'm going to be in San Diego next week for Accounting Web Live Summit. Totally looking forward to that. And then I am going to be at CPB Ignite, where certainly I've met you a few times, Kelvin, and then we've met at Connect a number of times, and Connect will be live. So I am doing, I'm doing a meetup at the Connect virtual event in June. So anybody who wants to come for a virtual meetup, I've been invited to host that. This stuff's on my website. But CPB Ignite in Calgary, can't wait to be there. So I see a few people are planning on CPB Ignite. I see Scaling New Heights. I am not going to be. Yeah, Connect. So I'm doing the virtual one is confirmed that I'm doing a meetup there. Nothing is confirmed for the speaker lineup for Connect Las Vegas. I'm not in Scaling New Heights because I was just there in October. And the Woodard Group can only take so much of Kellie. But Connect Las Vegas should be fun. I am super looking forward to that one. Yeah, and there's Greg. Hey, Greg, how's it going? Okay, so hang tight. I am with grand dogging. So this is my grand dog. If he acts up, I'll just have to lift him up, and he will be part of our meeting today. And Greg, now I'm going to let you get back to whatever it is that you had planned. And then, anybody who knows me, and I know lots of you don't know me, I'm not making assumptions that you do. But those of you who do know me know that I tend to take over and get a little excited. But back to you. Take it away from here.
All right. We'll just do a really quick introduction, and then Kellie can take it back.
Okay.
All right. So for those of you who are on earlier sessions, this is the Outsourced Controller Bootcamp. We've got Mark Wickersham just did a pricing event. I did a little session on how to progress from bookkeeper to controllership, and it is now Kellie's session. So feel free to introduce yourself, have a chat. As Kellie's already mentioned, if you have any Q&A, any questions, please put them in the Q&A tab, and Kellie can answer them at the very end of the session. These events will be recorded. So for people that are not here, we will be giving out recordings at the end. So if you miss one session or have to do a meeting in another, we'll be giving you links for all of them. So no worries if you cannot attend the live events. We just want to let people know that because this is an educational event, we do have other educational programs with Helm that you can take a look at. We've got Cashflow Advisory Live, which is a bi-weekly meetup, where it's just essentially a master class. We sit down, we talk about different things that are going on and how people are approaching them. We also have 2 educational programs dedicated to controllership, cash flow forecasting, cash management. One's do it yourself and one's active coaching. So please feel free to look at our website for that. And the agenda for today was myself first, then Mark. Now we've got Kellie, and then after Kellie, we'll have one of our partners, Veeam. Peter Stewart will be talking about how to use his Veeam's tool in order to kind of help do controllership services. So I'll actually pass it back to Kellie now, and I'll actually let her introduce herself so I don't butcher it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna share my screen. Just give me a second. Is that the right one? Let's just see. So I should be screen sharing now. And and we've already got a tech fail on Kellie's part. Way to go, Kellie. I didn't start the slideshow in presenter view, so I need to know what I'm going to talk about a little bit. Again, some of you who know me, running on the script tends to be a little bit of a tough call for me. I tend to get off topic, and I wish I could unmute every single one of you and get your input on stuff, and we could have a full conversation. I wish I could see everybody. All of those things would absolutely make my stinking day, and it is all about me. But at any rate, I can't see you. Be busy in the chat. I will take a look in there, and please put your answers into the Q&A, or your questions into the Q&A, so that I can see, the chatty stuff versus the actual questions that you may have. Okay, so today, taking the helm of your client's books. If we want to do controller work, and I'm guessing some of you, or maybe most of you, are doing controller work and you don't even know it. And therefore maybe you're not charging enough for it, or even if you're charging enough for it, maybe you're not even going with that sizzle sell, I'm going to do your books, and then you're doing their accounts payable for them. If you're controlling their accounts payable, that is part of controller work. So don't underestimate what you're already doing. That may be controller work. And I'm going to stay out of the whole pricing thing because I just suck at it. I price my clients according to how I feel about doing the work, not whether the clients want me to do the work or not. I do a paid file review. And when I see in the books, if I see they're doing lousy accounts payable, I'm doing accounts payable, and this is how much it's going to be. So back to Mark on trying to value price based on what the client values, not what, again, we're back to all about Kellie. So anyways, taking the helm of your client's books. I want you to be the captain of clean, consistent bookkeeping files. That is where you are going to get into the value. You're going to provide good, clean data. You're going to have consistency from file to file. And this is where you can really shine as a controller and not just be doing the bookkeeping work in the weeds of the data entry. This is where you're really going to get a chance to rise. Oh, somebody put in there, change is hard, not changing is harder. Thank you. Yes, that's my favorite saying. Okay, so today, what are we going to chat about? And remember, pull me back on topic if I get off topic. I don't have my bell because I packed my bell. I bell to bring myself back on topic. I have my bell today because it's packed to go to San Diego. And the people that I'm speaking with at San Diego, I had to bring extra bells because they're like me getting off topic. Our panel discussion is going to be chaos. Okay, so what are we going to chat about today? Number one thing, and we could end it almost after we talk about this, is defining your North Star. We are going to talk about defining what is your North Star. The power of documented processes, the strength of a routine, the importance of a file review, and the mightiness of client collaboration. Defining your North Star. So the North Star could be considered the outcome. So this isn't your mission statement. This isn't your goal. Well, it's kind of a goal. It is, what are the outcomes you are trying to achieve with your client books? This North Star is going to guide you through everything. It's going to guide your processes. It is going to guide your routines. It's going to guide how you collaborate with your clients. This is truly your North Star. I'm going to tell you guys my North Star, and then if you have a North Star, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. My North Star is that my clients' books are in such good shape and current and clean that they can sell, finance, or agree to an audit today. My clients don't go ahead and do that without talking to me. It's not like they're going to just like go ahead, oh, the books are in good enough shape that I can just sell today and surprise Kellie with it. No, the North Star is that they are confident in their books that they can call me and say, Kellie, I have been requested to have an audit of my books. And they can say, when is the soonest you can be available for the auditor? Not like, oh my goodness, what do we have to do to get the books ready? If they need financing, of course I want them to talk to me about that. we're talking, I do a lot of interactive controller work with my clients where we talk about whether they're going to need forecasting in the future. What do we need to do to make their balance sheet healthy enough that it is ready for financing? But I want them to be ready for financing in the moment. And if they want to sell, right? I want to make sure, and I have these discussions with my clients. What are your 2, 3, 5-year goals? What do you want to do with your business? I do that right from the prospecting start of it. And then we review it once a year when we're doing our re-engagement. If I know that a client is gearing up to sell, that's a different thing than financing. Then we need to talk about how much money is the owner taking out and how's that impacting the finances, that kind of thing. And that's controller work. But define your North Star. So our poll question is, oh, I got to see if I can do this correctly. Our poll question is, have you defined your North Star? Oh, there we go.
I actually launched it. I launched it for you. Don't worry. I'm here.
Thank you. It's like magic. Have you defined your North Star? If you have not, if you have defined your North Star, you can also, if you want to, all about you. If you want to, put your North Star into the chat. I would love to see what it is that is guiding everybody here when you are doing your client books, because just doing the work without knowing why you're doing the work can be a little floundering. My granddog is not enjoying me being in a session here right now. It's funny. Just to give you guys an idea, I have been on, I'm just going to chat while you guys finish up the poll. I've been on a bit of a sabbatical doing only client work. I have not done any app partner work. I haven't done any coaching. I have done almost nothing since the end of October. So if my session seems a little disjointed and my granddog seems a little upset, it's kind of new to both of us, all of us, since the end of October. Okay, so only 13% of you have fully defined your North Star. Some of you kind of, and that would be 59%. But 28% of you have not defined your North Star. So if you leave here right now and then come back later for Peter's session, I'm cool with that, because I would like to see everybody take some time, some deep thought time on what are you doing. What is the North Star of why you're doing your client books the way that you are doing them? And I am kidding about leaving. Don't leave my session. Okay, so this is me, Relentless Organizer. I have a bookkeeping practice. I sell templates for workflows, SOPs, client handbooks, all that kind of stuff. I work with accounting professionals trying to help them love bookkeeping as much as I love bookkeeping. So I work with them on technology and processes and yada, yada, yada. That's about me. Yeah. My personal life by the numbers. Obviously, I have one granddog. I have 3 grown kids who have taken over my life in the last year. 1 got married, 2 moved, and 1 more got engaged, and then 1 bought a house. It kept me very, my text has been blowing up. So I have 2 very unruly Australian shepherds. One of them is digging a hole right out here and she's not supposed to be. And I have 1 husband who is a fly fishing guy. He's also a fly fishing show host, which apparently is famous in the fly fishing world. And I have a 100-year-old lakeside cabin. And I work in a she shed because my cabin may never actually be done. Yap about Kellie, right? So shoddy, out-of-date data leads to shoddy controller results. If the data isn't clean, if you haven't taken the helm of your client's books, you got crap results coming out of your controller. So if you have not got a process for getting the bills into the GL so that they can then be paid by Beam, so that they can then be paid in a meaningful manner, it's hopeless. So you need to keep clean data, up-to-date data, and we're going to talk about how you do that. So the power of documented processes. Your processes are driven by your North Star. North Star, it's a star now. So what are the key tasks to getting the work done and achieving the outcomes? Number one is creating checklists to follow in the correct order. And I really mean that about the correct order. It's not enough to just have a checklist that has all the items. You need to have a checklist where everything is in the right order. I know this kind of goes without saying, but I've seen it where it doesn't go without saying, where somebody is busy working in the bank feed, but they haven't cleared, let's say, Dext or whatever it is that they're using to capture receipts. So you need to have processes to create a logical, effective order of events to provide sound controller work. It needs to be consistent, client to client, niche to niche, team member to team member. You need best practices, processes, and systems, and that is what is key to captaining, oh, for goodness sakes, Kelly, the ships. And so you need to outline what are the tasks that need to be done, what is the order that they need to be done in. And some things will be hand in hand. So I'm going to give some live examples as we go along here. One of the things that I always have going is I use Dext personally, and I use HubDoc for one client. So we've got the document management program open over here because I got multiple screens. Can't see them, but here they are. By the way, I love that Mark, his slide presentation showed up behind him somewhere back here. That was cool. So anyways, we've got let's just say Dext open over here, and then we've got the QuickBooks bank feed open over here. But in that bank feed, I also have all of the related bank feeds duplicated in tabs and opened up. So let's say we've got a credit card, we've got a line of credit, we've got a checking account, we've got a savings account, whatever it is, we've got PayPal. We've got all of those bank feeds open so that you can see multi or inter transactions on those. And then over here, I've got my accounts payable and my accounts receivable report. And that is to make sure that the stuff that's coming in is landing in accounts payable. I publish everything as a bill, not as an expense, so that I can run my AP report and make sure that anything that isn't matching in the bank feed is showing up on the AP report, and I can see if there's a date transposition, 10/1/110, for example. I can see if there's a date transposition that's causing me trouble, or I can see if there's some penny rounding going on, a number of things. If I've got that accounts payable open over here, if I've got accounts receivable open over here, then I can see anything that may not be matching in the bank feeds. So we've got Dext open over here, we're publishing in real time, we're refreshing the reports over here, and we've got the bank feeds in the middle to see how they relate to each other. That's how I control the flow of data coming in accurately into the books. The other thing that needs to happen in there simultaneously, or in that same section phase of the workflow, we need to check undeposited funds. So undeposited funds, or creating a bank deposit, for example, I'm not going to talk about zero. I can only talk about so many GLs in one 50-minute presentation. So then we've got undeposited funds open, because I want to see if there are deposits that aren't matching with deposits that are hitting the bank as well. And that way, when I've got all of this work going on and I am double checking all of these things, we're going to call it controlling the flow of data. I am keeping clean books in the moment while I'm doing the work. I'm not going back. I'm not forgetting to go back. That data is making sense across all of those key areas. There's document management, bank feeds, undeposited funds, accounts payable, and accounts receivable. That's how we control the data as it is flowing into the file. So the next step is you have to create best practices. So some of those things I just said are best practices. So it's not enough to say publish the receipts from Dext. What you need is publish the receipts from Dext while you've got AP and AR open and yada, yada, yada. So you need to create best practices to make sure that the outcome that you're trying to achieve can be achieved to its fullest. You need to craft policy and procedure documents. So what do we do let's hop over to reconciliations. So, a policy and procedure document, we can do that in the bank feed too. One of the things about the bank feeds I already mentioned is have them all open at once, so that you are not making inter-account transfers and then not catching that there's a problem until the reconciliation, because the reconciliation isn't going to be until 2, 3, 4 days into the beginning of the month. You want to be catching data issues in the moment. So if you make a transfer from one account to another account, you want to refresh the bank feed in the receiving account and make sure that it's showing up there as a match. If you don't do it that way, if you don't have those open, then what's going to happen is you're only going to catch it later. You don't want to catch stuff later to be effective at doing controllership work. The higher value work comes from keeping the data clean in the moment, not cleaning up the data later. So that would be a policy and procedure that would go into a document, and then home them somewhere accessible. So for me, my SOPs, I call them SOPs, standard operating procedures, are actually a PowerPoint document. And as they are a PowerPoint document, they are a bookmark on my Chrome browser. And that way, if I have a question about something, because things that I don't do very often, well, I don't know when the last time I did this one, but I'm going to use an example, is my clients haven't used checks in years. But let's say that you had an NSF check. That doesn't go into a checklist. That doesn't go into a workflow that you do weekly or monthly, because that's not something that you do very often. So then we forget, how do I reverse or record an NSF check? That goes into a policy document. That is somewhere. So in your workflow, you would make sure that everything is cleared from the bank feed, from the reconciliation. You go into the reconciliation and then there's an NSF check and you've got to do something with that NSF check, or you've got a stale dated check. That would be a better example, because you can have stale dated payments. Stale dated payment. Well, how do I clear that stale dated payment? Don't have that take up space in your workflow. Have that be something that is just a quick note and it says refer policy document, and have a link right through to the page on the slide deck, Notion, whatever data you're using for your wikis, have a link that takes you straight through to how do I clear a stale data payment. Any questions? I feel like I'm talking in a vacuum. Again, I wish I could unmute you all and just say hi. My husband's name is Jeff Parks, and it is the new Fly Fisher show. Somebody asked me something more fun than accounting. Okay. The power of documented processes. Solve for where you fall down. Do you have quirks? Do you have things that you consistently don't do well? So make sure that you have very clear statements where you know that you are falling down. Because if you aren't completing the work well, your advisory work is going to suck, and nobody wants that, right? So when you have work that's falling down, they don't have to be big things. They just have to be important, that they are the things that are creating crap data. We don't want crap data. So one of the things, there's a quirk in QuickBooks Online, and it only happens when I am sending a year-end off to an accountant that I don't know. Well, sure, that's when it happens. And what it is that the statement ending balances, the GL, the trial balance, do not match. So you've got a statement ending balance of $500. You've got a trial balance of, $475. And that it's those dumb little things that actually can lead to bigger problems. So what I did was I created a workflow, because I'm only doing it a couple of times a year, so I don't remember the process for it. So I created an actual workflow. It's more than 6 steps. That becomes a workflow for me. And I got to open up the statements. I got to open up the reconciliations. I got to open up all of these things, and then I got to check through them. And if they don't match, then I have a process for how I go back through and I find out what that process or where that change came from. By the way, that particular quirk in QuickBooks Online It doesn't have to be that you unreconciled something. It doesn't have to be that you changed an amount. It can come from simply opening up a transaction and changing a transaction number. So it's a really important one. It's as important to check that one as to check the prior year trial balance before you send off to an accounting professional if you aren't actually doing the taxes yourself. Hi, Trinity. It's so nice to see you. Okay. Why do I use a PowerPoint for your SOPs? Because they're pretty, they're easy to brand. You can host them on as a Chrome bookmark link, and you can put in a table of contents at the beginning, and then you can actually have an index at the back to really take you into the weeds. I find them very linkable. I find them very easy to use. I find them easy to brand. So I use Google Slides for this. Notion would work well. There's all kinds of ways that you can do that. I just find it really easy to do this in a Google Slide. Okay, so the other thing that is super important, especially for controller work, is you need to make sure you're closing the client books. And so I actually have it as a step in my workflow process. So for my monthly, I have a client that their transaction load is so heavy that we do it weekly. That I actually have a step that says close the books. I feel like saying to myself, close the books, dum dum, because sometimes I would forget to do that. If you don't close the books, two things happen. People can make changes into the past period, and then your controllership work does not equal the value of what it should. And also you don't get an exception to close period report. Sometimes you do have to go back into a past period. It's nice to know why. It's nice to have a record of it. So exception to close periods, you can't get that report if you don't actually close books. Okay, celebrate what you do well. Document what is succeeding and iterate it to keep the data clean. Do you have a team member that does things really, really well? Get them to video it and then get them to write out the steps that they're doing. Do they have the cleanest books in town? Find out what it is that they're doing right. And even if you have this great process, make sure you iterate on it. There will always be something better you can do. There is always the next thing to bring your books next level. Okay, this really matters. The strength of a routine. And this is not just when you're doing the work or when your team member is doing the work. This is all about getting the clients to do the work too. So I know a lot of us struggle with getting our clients to get us what we need, to get us answers, to get us documents, especially us Canadians. And I'm not sure if there's any other Commonwealth kids in here other than Canadians. We have to have the documentation because the way our sales tax works. We have a value-added tax. We need to know what that tax is, and it is not always a true percentage. So here in Ontario, where I live, it should be 13% of an expense, but it's not always because there's tip. People buy, well, my clients don't, but they could buy cigarettes at the when they're getting gas. There's tip on food. There's tip on taxis. There is liquor tax. There's all kinds of reasons why it wouldn't be 13%. So we need the receipt. We need to prove to the CRA and I said one of my North Stars is that the books are ready for an audit right now. And if I don't have source documents up to date and lined up with every transaction that I've entered, then their books are not ready for an audit right now. So we need to create a rhythm up for our clients too, so that they can get us what we need in a timely manner. We know exactly what the expense is for. We're ready for my North Star of an audit. We're ready to sell the business because the transactions are very clear what it is that the owner is spending money on. There's all kinds of good reasons to make sure your clients are keeping up with their side of the deal. If you don't create a rhythm for them though, it's not going to be as easy to get the information you need from them. So one of the things that and there's another win on this, and that is two-factor verification on the bank feeds. So I have my clients, I don't care if it's the owner, I'd prefer if it was the owner, or if it is somebody who is doing it for them, refresh their bank feeds once a week. Go into the bank feeds, update them, and then make sure that they have have reset any connections that may have broken. I also want them to go in and visually look at decks, not just upload by email, and make sure that everything that they thought got uploaded to decks showed up. Because if there's an internet glitch, if Dex thinks this is a duplicate, there's all kinds of reasons why it wouldn't come in. My husband, for example, is off in far-flung places where there aren't far-flung, where there isn't data, cell data. Doesn't matter how many times I say to him, Jeff, just do them when you get home, whatever it is. But when you're up in who knows where, you're taking pictures into Dex. There's no cell data that's actually sending them. So I have my clients go in and make sure that everything they thought was in there was in there. So I've created a rhythm. I've created a day where they do that. And I find that my clients are fairly good at getting me the information that I need because they now have a habit. And when they go into the bank feeds, they know that they're not to muck around in the bank feeds. But what I really want is when they're checking things out in Dex, do they see things in the bank feed that don't have matching transactions? They don't need to get into all of the weeds, especially if it's an e-commerce client. They don't need to look at all the transactions in the bank deposits that are coming in. They don't need to do any of that. They just need to refresh the bank feeds and take a general overview and make sure things aren't going haywire for them. Okay. Do you have a daily, weekly routine? And while that poll is going up, I'm just going to tell you that my clients by Monday. So I prefer that they do it on Monday because then they have a good start to their business week. They know what's going on in their bank feeds. They can see what kind of money is coming and going. They're over the weekend. I love if they do their work on Monday. And then I actually have a routine on when I do deep client work. So every Monday, I also go into the client files. I do the Dex APAR routine that I just told you about, where I'm checking the bank feeds. I've got the bank feeds all lined up, got Dex open, APAR and undeposited funds. I do as much work as I can do on Mondays or Tuesdays. Some clients pay for that, and some clients know that that's what I do, but it's not a guarantee that it's going to be done for them. So if I'm going to be away, I have Marissa, I have a person who does stuff for me. I have Marissa go in and do that. I highly recommend if you're going to do controller work, you have at least a weekly routine of when, this doesn't have to be the deep work. Literally clearing some of those feeds will keep the books in a really nice up-to-date manner, as opposed to just doing it on the 3rd or the 4th of the month. And then you're scrambling for a number of reasons. You're catching up on data now, and you've got your entire workload at once. If you do it weekly on Mondays, whether you guarantee you're going to do it or not, at least you have spread your work out over the course of the month. And this is really important for your team members too, because you don't have them overloaded at the beginning of the month. The strength of a routine. So weekly, check docs and clear bank feeds. Use systems like bank rules, make it quick, but do not over automate, especially in the bank feeds. The bank feeds, even with rules, they tend to be like that kid at the front of the class. I know the answer, I know the answer, I know the answer. And that kid doesn't always know the answer. It is super quick to clear both decks and to clear the bank feeds by sort, by filter, use names, just put in Uber. If for some reason somebody has a lot of Ubers, just put in the name Uber, put in the name Uber and Dex, match them up, see what's going on, publish them over, sort them by date, and then check off a bunch of things. The only thing that I automate is if I have a client who has a lot of merchant payments coming in, and those will be automatically sent over to a clearing account that is then reconciled. Again, depends on the client load. I have a client that I do that one weekly, make sure that clearing account isn't getting out of control, but reconciling that clearing account at the beginning of the next month, just to make sure. So when we're talking about controllership, clearing accounts, reconcile them all and reconcile them like a bank account. So if they've got a Stripe account, if they've got a Square account, if they've got PayPal, you reconcile them exactly like a bank account. It will not always be zero. So get that ending balance and create a system with your clients. For me, I have logins. I use Financial Sense and I use 1Password, and I have logins into some of these programs. I don't have their bank logins, but I have logins into some of these applications that we use to receive money. I also, this is great controller work. One of my clients was getting behind on getting receipts from their vendors because their vendors don't send them. They have to go get them out of their portals. And so I offered up Marissa and I said, if we go get those receipts for you, is that value for you? And they were like, heck yeah, go get them. I don't want to do that. So I have the logins to get their supplier ones. That way I've got the suppliers coming into Dext on a schedule that I want, popping down into QuickBooks and showing up in the payment platform so that they can be paid as well. AP is fantastic controller work. And I'm going to go off topic a little bit here and tell you a story. So I had a client, they had hundreds of payables. It took me an hour. It took me a day a week. Thursdays was dedicated to accounts payable. I took them off of checks. I took them off of bills coming in by mail, and I put them onto a paperless system that I could manage. And I could send, so the documents were coming in, going into the GL, popping out at the other end at the payment platform. So these guys were paying me essentially for a day a week to come in and do the accounts payable. I turned that into basically a 20-minute thing, let's say, give or take, and they paid me the same amount. And it was more controllable because what would happen is I'd issue the check and then they'd be like, oh, there's a credit note. Now we'd have to pull back the check again. Now we have a full approval process, and they could tell me I could send off the payments and they could not approve them. They could say, no, I'm going to send that out 2 weeks from now. We could look over them together, sort and filter. It was awesome. Accounts payable is a fantastic put-in, profitable controller work, and it does not impede on your life. Let's say payroll does. Not that anybody, I wish I could have a full question. Is payroll a lifestyle commitment for bookkeepers and accountants? Okay, so document and the information comes from my clients weekly, not monthly. The nice thing about that routine is too, it is a lot easier to stay caught up than get caught up. So if you can take a look at all of the resources, the bank feed and the document managed program, and see that there is a lot of stuff missing, easier to send a note out in the middle of the month than try and collect everything for the end of the month. Not go on, well, I just did go on and on about routine. This is the only way to have real-time data to do effective outsourced controller work in the rear view mirror. For sure. It's telling me my internet connection is unstable. I'm sorry if that's actually true. Okay. Importance of a file review. Can someone pop into the chat? Can you see me? Did my internet come back up? Or am I frozen? Oh, I'm good. Okay. Yay. You know what? I wanted to go back to one thing. There is no cash flow numbers in the rear view mirror. That is so important. So back to the routine. I know I said I was going to harp about it. I am harping about a routine, especially with all the resources available to us. That doesn't take over our life to do the books on a Monday morning. Okay. Importance of a file review. I use a file review app. There's an app for that. If anybody wants to know what that is, we can talk about that in the Q&A, which is coming up. But craft a workflow or an app. So I have a fully built out workflow as well. I use an app, but make sure files are reviewed thoroughly before shipping out any of your controller work. And this especially comes back to the AP and the AR, the balance sheet as a dumping ground. So not reconciling those clearing accounts, for example. If the balance sheet has become a dumping ground of the unknown, your controller work is not going to be effective for the client. A second set of eyes is beneficial. So if you have someone doing the work, have the manager review it. but empower the person doing the work to have a workflow to review the file before it goes off to the manager. Don't make them feel insecure about the work going to the manager. So a second set of eyes is always beneficial, and add some other things. So some of those non-posting transactions aren't going to show up in the file review price. The balance sheet is where things go to die. Yeah, I call it the dumping ground, but it's so true. So the importance of a file review. Oh yeah, non-posting transactions. Very important if you're going to do effective controller work. Billable items that have not been billed. When I see some of the, I do cleanup work, I do projects, I do love them and leave them work. They just bring it in, I clean it up, set up the systems, maybe keep them for a couple of years, maybe not, and then off they go. Billable items. If they have hundreds of billable items, it's not a posting transaction, but it's lousy accounting. It's lousy to have that sitting. That is not controlled finances, if you will. Billable items. Estimates. They have all kinds of estimates in there that have never been closed out. Controller work, nice, neat, tidy controller work also includes non-posting transactions. So make yourself invaluable to the clients, aka have the ability to raise prices. They do the end of the year success review. You're all doing an end of the year review with your clients, right? You get them to do a survey to see how much they love you. So anyways, when you do that success survey, if in it, they already know that you've helped them clean up the estimates that were in there, that were just sitting there. That's controller work. So make sure it's not just, are the balances in the right position? It's the rent up every month. Do utilities make sense? They're missing telephone bills. All of that stuff. That stuff matters, huge. But it also matters, non-posting transactions. Okay. And the mightiness of client collaboration. Make it easy so it gets done. Without client collaboration, there is no advisory work. Be consistent, be relentless, or have a system to code. So you need to keep at the client, but make sure that you have a system that makes it easy for them to get you things. So one of the things that I do is, some of you who know me, and again, I'm not assuming all of you do, I use Chrome browser to the maximum. And I create a Chrome browser identity for my clients. And let me just see. Of course, I had it out. And do you think I can find it? No, just give me a second here. Here it is. So this is essentially, this is a demo account. This is essentially what my Chrome browser looks like. And I build one for my clients. And in it, it has a list of all the things to do. And it has the tech stack. Certain things open when it opens. It has all of the things that you want them to do, including if you right click, you can open things all at once. Let's open a whole series of reports. I've created custom reports within QuickBooks for my clients. I've also created bookmarks of the ones that I want them to look at. Make it easy so it gets done. So I have a client standard template bookmark. I then spend, when I onboard a client, and spend upfront time with your client when you're onboarding them on training them. I know Ed Plus wants me to use the word educating, but training has way better SEO. So spend the upfront time training your client on how to use QuickBooks effectively so that they feel confident in it. One of those ways, I do the same thing with team members. So team member. So Marissa has one, and it has her things that she needs specifically for her. And then AR, AP. So I would build, so I have a standard one. The clients and I put it together for them. They open it up, they do their work. I customize it for the things that they need. In the reports here, perhaps there would be due to shareholders, loan balances, whatever reports I want them to check, I make sure that they're in here. And pardon me, sorry. So I spent upfront time teaching them not just to use DEX, not just to use the payment processor, not just QuickBooks, but also how to deal in cloud accounting technology. in cloud technology in general. So they get a whole routine of how to do it, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier for them. One of the reasons that I do that, as I'm sure some of you know, is if you open up an expense, then you have lost all ability to do any other transactions. I don't want my customers to be frustrated by that, clients to be frustrated by that. So I have taught them to duplicate a tab and then open up whatever it is that they need to do. Overview, for example, which isn't going to take us there, the file's not open. Overview, for example, though, you open up the overview and then duplicate the tab a number of times so that you get all of those bank feeds, overview, any of those things. When I mentioned a best practice earlier, the other one that I want to talk about is when reconciling, reconcile from the overview tab. Again, I'm sorry, this only relates to QuickBooks, but it's the same in Xero. Do everything in unison. So when you are reconciling or in Xero, working in the bank feeds, have all of those reports open, as I mentioned, but make sure no reconciliation gets finished until all reconciliations are zeroed out and ready to go. That way, all the data is accurate across all of the accounts at the same time. You are never going back, opening up a reconciliation. You can see that every reconciliation is clean. And you'll say, oh, they don't have any actions. Of course they do. They've got a Visa perhaps, and then they've got a bank account. But even if they have PayPal and it didn't clear properly into the bank account, even if they use petty cash, if it's not showing up in the bank account, is it showing up in petty cash? All of those things. So even if they don't have a credit card or a savings and a checking account in US, a Canadian, whatever the case may be, make sure that you are still reconciling in unison, because the accounts are always interrelated, including lousy transactions going into the wrong place. Okay, so that is one of the things that I do for my clients, is I create a thing for them. Also, have for consistency. So my dog and I train my husband and I train our dogs very differently. I have very clear words, very clear communications with my dog. So the one is come Tippet, and she comes for me. My husband calls her every name in the book. He never uses the word come. And so the dog doesn't come for him because she doesn't really understand what he's asking her. And so make sure that you have templated responses, you have canned responses, you have an easy way of doing this. And I'm going to show you a killer example. I use something called a Stream Deck. I promise not to go down this rabbit hole, but I want to show you a couple of things. So I am about to hit a button and it put in my workflow watering hole. I have a Facebook group. I would love if you joined it. And there's the link. It took me a one button click. I don't care how you do it, text expanders, if you have a document that has the words in it, if you template your emails, client collaboration comes from consistency and making it easy for them. You want them to upload something somewhere, give them an upload link. Don't just say put it somewhere. And then make sure you've got some way, for me, it's bookmarking. It's their Chrome browser that they can just put stuff where it needs, but I still put a link in the email. I want to make it as easy as possible for them. A document to copy and paste, automation in your project app. My project app has lots. I'm going to show you something else fun. So I just hit that button right there again. I wish I could show you my Stream Deck, but I don't think it really comes up. No, I can't bring it up to the camera. So I have a newsletter. I would love if you subscribed to it. That would be fun. And I sell templates for all of this. And if you use the code, and it'll be in the slide deck, I think it's Helm. I think they're 20% off. Anyways, without client collaboration, there is no advisory work. So we talked about creating the Chrome browser. It's got bookmarks for everything. And again, if you do a folder with bookmarks in it, they can right click it and open all the reports you want them to look at. Or I can open all of the reports at once that I want to look at when I'm clearing bank feeds and working index. There is no controller work without a clear North Star. Documented processes are powerful. Routine creates data strength. Do you like I'm in the serious part now? I'm doing the things I said I would do in my script. File reviews are key, and client collaboration is mighty. I would love if you joined our Facebook group. It's a great community. I see a lot of you here that are in there. And so that group is fun. It's all about processes. It's all about technology to power the processes, and it's just kind of fun. Our members are awesome. So until May 31st, and you will get a copy of this slide deck. Thank you. I'm not sure if that came in under time. That doesn't really leave us time for Q&A. That's like,
you got a minute for Q&A.
Okay, file review software is called, it is Zenit. Xenett. It is Zenit Auto Review. Some of you may know it as Auto Review. So there's Auto Review. And I think that's it. Do I have a question? Oh, I have one Q&A that I missed. Chris, do you have an example of a client checklist worksheet? Can I? Yes, I do. And I actually got it open. So this super quick is a client checklist work. This is a collaborative workflow. It's just built in a spreadsheet, spreadsheet, that thing we use. There's my work, and there is the list of what the client does and across the time and who in the company may do it. So I'm not really sure if that answers your question, but this is an example of that. And the other thing is the SOP that I talked about super quick would be, remember I said that there was a table of contents that could take you straight through to anywhere you want to go. And then there's an index of the in the weeds things. What are you going to do with bad debt, stale dated checks, zero sum sales receipts, all of these in the weeds kinds of things. Okay, did I make it in time, Calvin?
Woo. No, that was great. No, thanks. There was tons of great stuff in there. I actually wish we had more time because there was a few things that I keyed off on that I think are really key. The collaboration.
So, Mindy,
it's huge.
I have to come back to one question. So Mindy Morrison said, if you don't move, then your audio won't stall. Mindy, I hope to meet you in person someday and spend a few minutes with me, and you will go, it's not possible. She's like, she's got the ants in her pants kind of thing. I just don't stop moving. And I know it's incredibly distracting. And I try really hard not to do it, but I can't. But that's why I actually have a lapel mic. It comes with me when I move.
All right, everybody, thanks. We'll end it there and start the next session shortly.
Oh,
thanks so much, Kelly. It was great having you.
Thank you. One last thing. Is that my Rajiv? There's no last name. So I'm thinking, is that my Rajiv? By my Rajiv, I mean a friend of mine.
I don't know.
It is. Okay, that's great. Go ahead, back to you.
All right. Thanks. We'll start the next session shortly. Thanks, everybody. And please check out Kellie's stuff. She's great.